Hey guys, what's up? It's Wos. I just wanted to tell you guys that this latest episode of Woke Bros was recorded before news reports revealed that a woman was shot and killed in the Senate hall. This news had not revealed itself, and this episode will not reflect that news. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up, just in case you thought that we ignored it or whatever. The news hadn't dropped by the time the episode had wrapped, and so just wanted to share that with you guys. Hope you enjoy the episode. Peace. Woo! Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Back from holiday, back like we never left. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back to the latest jam-packed edition. And a lot of shows you hear people say jam-packed, but no, this edition is jam-packed of the Woke Bros. Of course, I'm your co-host, as always, Big Wos, a.k.a. Wos and Nando. Joined as always by my brother, my partner for real, like the Wayans, Nando Vila out there on the west side of Los Angeles. What's good, Nando?
You know, I hear helicopters, maybe some tanks in the street. The brown shirts are marching down Venice Boulevard. Yeah.
Give us
what we're
free.
doing. We're doing the show.
Give us free. Yeah, we're going to do this show whether they take over the government or not. On today's show, you know, this Hilaria Baldwin topic.
I just love that you have to start with that because, like, I think everyone's like thinking, okay, people are storming the Capitol. But
right,
wait, we'll talk about that.
But there's other things to talk about today.
Yeah, there's other things to talk about. Important shit.
We're gonna get to that. Hilaria Baldwin. This story comes on the back of a few sort of racial catfish stories that have happened in the last few weeks or so, month and a half or so. And me and Nando, because Nando happens to be a tried and true actual person from Spain, an actual Spaniard, we're always fascinated by liberals, by identity politics, just by all of that stuff. We just found this story to be fascinating, so we're gonna get into that towards the end of the show. The workers at Google, all workers, contractors, engineers, designers, everybody, you name it, are involved in what is a historic unionization organization effort. We're going to get into the ramifications of that, talk about why not a single solitary Democrat has spoken publicly about getting behind it, because you would think...
Well, except for one.
But we knew that already. But we'll get into that. I don't even want to get into my takes about that. It's just Google trying to unionize is just something that hits at the sweet spot of what we do here at the Woke Bro. So we're going to get into that. We're recording on a Wednesday afternoon. And last night, John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock of Georgia defeated White Purdue and Kelly Loeffler out in Georgia to give the Dems the 50-50 split in the Senate, with Kamala Harris being the deciding vote. That's if Joe Manchin don't show his true colors. But whatever, we'll get into all of that. But first, oh my Lord, Nando. I got off the plane and, my girlfriend, who she doesn't want me to call her a normie anymore, but I will say she's a Democrat. She's a loyal Democrat. So she watches CNN and MSNBC pretty religiously. She gets off the phone. We land in Los Angeles about 11 a.m., 10:45 local time here. And she's like, oh, they stormed the White House and Trump supporters have done this. And I'm like, what are they like? The first thing that comes to my mind, Nando, and just to get everybody brought up to speed, Trump's been having his supporters protest out in the Capitol, basically protesting the alleged theft of a Democratic election. And people have been protesting out front and saying, we need to get Trump the presidency. Finally, they got fed up and they stormed the Capitol. They stormed the Senate while it was in session, by the way, which is hilarious. And these guys, of course, the Frady cats that they are, they scurried off and they got away from their icky constituents as fast as they can. And guys it was photo ops and all this kind of stuff. And you see people on Twitter calling it a coup, which is not, guys. Like, no actual power was seized. There's nobody at the levers of power who were down with this or behind this, whether it be the military, whether it be the actual financial, economic rulers, that class of people. Nobody was actually behind this. It's just a bunch of they're kooks. It's just a bunch of kooks who love our president, who stormed the building. And to be honest with you, Nando, I was just quite heartened by the fact that this could even happen. Like, that they could even get close to these people. Like, I was like, not to say I wanted to see,
maybe we should try that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, not that I want to see senators and stuff get hurt or anything, but it's like, wow, like the security is that lax that these people could have got in there. That kind of took me by surprise. But other than that, guys, I mean, this was a clown show.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's important to understand. I mean, I think on one level, it is bad. It's bad that this kind of thing happens in America. Like, it's not a good thing that this happens in America, that there's a significant chunk of the population is living in a sort of fantasy land because due to decades and decades of right-wing propaganda, which has been unchecked, and weak, cowering liberalism, which has been unable to
counteract it,
satisfy the structural problems that undergird all of this. So this is decades and decades coming at this point. Everything from the rise of right-wing talk radio in the 80s, Fox News in the 90s, in the late 90s and early 2000s, to, the online kind of right-wing ecosystem that came up after that. It's just a significant chunk of the population has been radicalized to a degree that is beyond what we could ever imagine. And they do it because they need to sell them on an unpopular agenda of redistribution of wealth upwards. That is what the Republican Party is about. They need to whip them up somehow. They need to whip up their votes somehow. And for years, it was the religious right. But then that kind of faded away in terms of a power center. No one really cares about abortion anymore, on the right. Like that's kind of faded away. And so now they had to find a new, harder drug. And that's what Trumpism was. And this is what it's culminating to, like these bunch of kooks and crazies storming the Capitol and getting inside wearing their Pepe hats and, their fucking like whatever they were, like that guy wearing like a deer skin head suit, like taking over the Senate chamber. I mean, that's what it's come down to. But make no mistake, Trump will not be the president on January 20th. Joe Biden will be the president on January 20th. And the fact that it is Joe Biden is a big reason why there ain't going to be no coup in this country, because the power structures of this country, meaning financial elites, industrialists, the capitalist class, plus the military elite of this country, the real power centers of this country, in other words, are not afraid of no Joe Biden. They are not going to overturn decades of sort of liberal democratic order to get Joe Biden out of president to keep Trump in there. They are more than happy. That
doesn't make any sense.
They're more than happy to get Trump the fuck out of there and deal with Uncle Joe Biden. So as long as that...
I think, Nando, it was important that you explain to the folks that, like, there would actually be civil unrest if Trump was to be kept in there. And that's bad for business.
Yes. It would be a hugely destabilizing event. It would be such a destabilizing event that they just don't want to, and they don't like him. They don't want to deal with him. Like, the real powerful people in this country are not Trump's base. I mean, they used to be the base of the Republican Party, but they're all Democrats now. Jeff Bezos is a Democrat. The CEO of Goldman Sachs is a Democrat. A lot of the general class in these days in the military, like the upper echelons of the military, are all Democrats. Like the real power centers of this country have become Democrats. And the right-wing base in this country right now is petty bourgeois, small business owners, like your Subaru dealership owners, your insurance petty salesmen, bourgeois. They're petty bourgeois. And that's a Marxist term. And So they don't have the actual levers of power to pull off something like this. They don't have the amount of deep state psychos to muscle this kind of thing through. It's just not going to happen. So rest assured in that sense that, like, you know, my girlfriend was very, very, very scared today, like watching the news
so
and be
was
like,
mine.
this is good. And it's like, I get, it's scary. It is scary to see these fucking maniacs storming the Capitol. But
and CNN and MSNBC, it's in their best interest to portray it as scary as possible, because y'all gonna stay locked in that they do that. If they were like, you look, a bunch of freaking kooks got through, the cops came, you know, maybe 30 minutes later, got them out of it, like, nobody could actually, you know, seize the method by which your granny gets Social Security. Like, those folks can't do that. They did like, that's just not how that's not how this country works. Like, a bunch of freaking, you know, yahoos rolling into a building. They're just squatters. They're literally squatting in a building. They're not doing anything else as far as upsetting the balance of power and how it works in America. So, you know, I want you guys to be cool, calm, and collected about what you're going to see on the freaking TV. And people, and I'm not going to lie, man, there's going to be a bunch of people on there, liberals on there, like, oh my God, what if this was the Black Lives Matter? The cops would have popped them and blah, 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 and this and this and that. And to a certain extent, Nando, I want people who listen to the show to know, like, yeah, we should be using this as an example of what the cops can do when a threat is presented. That's to the extent that
dealing
this should matter
with
in
it
that
in
context.
a rational manner.
Not that the cops should do what they do to freaking black protesters. No. That's not which the message should be out. Well, why don't they do? No. What should come out of this is a great example of the cops doing this shit in the fucking Senate. Okay? Literally at the fucking centralized power structure of this country. This is how the cops behave. You can do that shit in front of a sneaker store. Thank you very much. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, it is true when people point out, like, when BLM protesters were near the Capitol, I mean, they were fucking strapped, these National Guard people, you know, and like, we saw image after image after image over the summer of like a protester throwing a bottle into like a wall of like these riot police marching toward them and then just beating the absolute living fuck out of that person, you know, like pepper spraying people left and right indiscriminately. That is all true. And if these protesters were kind of quote unquote left wing or Black Lives Matter protesters, the response would absolutely have been more brutal than what we saw today. But the upshot of that, sort of the response to that, should not be that we should deal with everyone in that manner. Like that, this country is way over policed for everyone. Like we need to use this, like you said, as an example of what kind of like restraint in policing can look like, and not fucking elevate every fucking situation into like an invasion of this country. And I agree with you. I mean, I think that's a very liberal impulse to be like, these men are terrorists. They should be summarily executed on the street.
I keep seeing that shit on the internet. I tell this joke all the time, Nando, because when I was in Spain in 2017, there was a quote unquote terrorist attack, and it was a guy, I guess he was Muslim. He ran over like 5 people. I think 3 of them died. That's fucked up. It's terrible. I'm sure their families are still mourning their losses. But I remember thinking to myself as an American being there, and it kind of, not gonna lie, it ruined my last night in Spain. I remember thinking, shit, man, I'm old enough to remember when you had to at least have some bombs involved to be called a terrorist, or if you did guns, it had to be in the double digits. Died like this just wouldn't have escalated to the level of the T word where I'm from. Like when I'm just old enough to remember when you had to take down the towers to get called a damn terrorist. Now a nigga went to the Ramblas and ran some people over, and I was like, I mean, come on, he's a terrorist now? You know, like, guys, let's not get carried away here.
Yeah, and you know what, the word terrorism in this country has a very specific connotation and very specific kind of legal ramifications, which basically means that if you get tried, quote unquote, as a terrorist, you are not subject to the laws of habeas corpus. Like, you don't have the same protections as if you did. Like, you can do all the illegal shit that we did in the war on terror, torture, legal rendition, send you off to Guantanamo to rot with no trial, all that shit. That's what the ramification of like calling everyone terrorist is. We don't want to expand that net. We want to reduce that net. if that makes sense.
And it's important. And I want to get back to the dudes and chicks who stormed the Capitol today. And people watching this would be like, yo, why are the people on the right deluding them in this way? Why are they brainwashing? Like, why would they do this? What's the purpose of that? And it's easy. They're selling them dick pills. They're selling them survival gear, survivalist stuff. Fox News and hate radio, like that's a money maker, right? Like,
oh yeah,
the amount of people you get to tune in by
billions of dollars.
It's billions of dollars that you get for this. And again, the reason why politicians go along with it, because they need something to keep people occupied with on the right, in order to quietly get their actual agenda through, which is literally only about shoveling more money to the top of the food chain. That's it.
Wos, we're coming up to the end of 4 years of Trump. What was his one meaningful piece of legislation?
The tax cut, the big tax cut. That's it.
The biggest tax cut in American history.
And they had power, by the way. Like, if
they had all the branches of government,
they could have easily cut a cute little deal with the Dems. Nancy Pelosi would have loved dropping some bipartisan heat on our head tops. If they wanted to, they don't want anything else. They don't, like, you've seen it, like. And I've repeated this numerous times, like that abortion shit when Amy Coney Barrett just got put on the court and they were like, oh, they're gonna cancel abortion. No,
that's too destabilizing. They're not gonna do that. It's too destabilizing. Yeah.
People are actually passionate about abortion, and they know that. They know that. Like, they know, like, what's the point of, like, right now, if you don't want an abortion, you don't get one. What's the point of upsetting how it is right now? Like, it's never going to happen. They always keep their eye on the ball, which is what we always tell you guys: follow the freaking money. We've already spent more time than I would have liked to anyway on this thing, and we've got other news, good news, undeniably so. The Dems swept the Republicans in the state of Georgia, giving them the advantage in the Senate. John Ossoff, which we've said over here, is sort of a DCCC sort of, offspring. Just your regular...
mini Buttigieg.
Yeah, mini Buttigieg. That's it. Just your regular run-of-the-mill centrist Democrat, whatever. He's going to be a reliable vote for whatever Democrats decide that they want. Or, man, whatever thing Democrats scare themselves into understanding that people actually need, right? That piece that you actually shared with me the other day, Nando, is that, like, Democrats are so scared of stuff that's actually popular. Like, they convince themselves that nobody wants the things that everybody literally wants, like single payer health care, for example. And whatever, we'll see what the Dems do with their power. Warnock, of course, his background as a preacher and all this other shit. Again, it's historic. He is the first black senator from the state of Georgia, and that is significant because from the South, from the deep South, period.
Yeah,
right. We've never had one in Mississippi, Alabama, South.
Yeah.
No, we had one in South Carolina, but that's our boy Tim Scott or whatever the fuck his name is.
Oh,
yeah.
Was he a senator or a congressman?
Nah, he's a senator.
Oh,
he's South Carolina. Yeah. He's the other guy that's not Lindsey Graham. Yeah, and so anyway, first Democrat out of Georgia, black man. It's historic. If you're reading your timeline and you follow a bunch of libs like I do, it's a bunch of memes of Stacey Abrams, which again, I'm not down in Georgia. Like, I guess people want to give her all the credit for getting those voters to the polls. I don't know that that's what actually happened. I'm sure her what are we calling the company that she represents, or the organization
like it's like,
what are we calling that? What is that? Political action? What is that?
It's like a political organization. Or
I don't know what to call it. I don't know if it's a charity. I don't know what it is. But yeah, of course, those people were involved in getting out the vote and organizing, and she did a bunch of TV and all of that stuff. I don't know what to say besides I'm hopeful of what can happen with the majority in both the House and the Senate. If I'm being realistic about it, if you put a gun in my head, Do I think anything meaningful is going to come out of this? I don't think so. And, I was a buddy of mine was talking in a group chat. And he said he feels bad for Joe Biden because he got in this job and he had all the excuses in the world to do absolutely nothing. And now people are going to expect him to do shit.
I do think that,
Nando.
So I think what's changed from November to now is the consensus around the $2,000 stimulus check. So before November, the Democrats, if you remember the general election, which seems like 5 years ago now, the Democrats did not run explicitly on
Kamala
a clean
Harris,
check.
Sorry to cut you off, didn't even want to get behind her own bill.
It
took her weeks to be like, to actually speak up on something she introduced.
Yeah. So this all changed, and we covered it on this show when Trump kind of
bullied people,
threatened to veto the bill, and then he was like, I want $2,000 checks, and then the House passed a $1,000 check, and then very crucially in Georgia, the race became about that. And Ossoff in particular, and Warnock, but Ossoff in particular was very blunt and explicit about it. He was like, don't listen to anything else. If you vote for us, we will pass the $2,000 check. And then he went on TV and he's like, I spoke to Joe Biden on the phone and he told me that as soon as we win, we're going to pass the $2,000 check. And then Joe Biden came to Georgia and he said, if they win, I will pass the $2,000 check. Chuck Schumer has come out. The leadership in the Senate, Democrats, has come out and said, if they win, they will pass the $2,000 check. So they've promised this. They now control the chambers. They control the executive branch. I think that they probably will pass it. That they're not going to be
but Nando,
some
be
sort of
careful.
last second.
It's the Dems we're talking about here.
I know.
Nobody fucks up a good hand better than the Dems.
It's true. But it's become too this race hinged on that. And to be honest, if the Dems do pass it, and by the way, I think Joe Biden should slap his fucking face on the $2,000 check and he should sign it and he should write a little personalized note to every American saying, that's politics, baby.
Of course. Because
that will go a long way into helping them secure their majority more long term. People will remember that, people will remember a fat $2,000 check is not nothing, and
God knows
people will remember. Yeah. And then the question is, what else do they do? What else do they do now that they control the three elected branches of government, right? They don't control the Supreme Court, but they control the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. What else will they do? Will they pass certain reforms to ensure that they kind of can maintain power like the Republicans would do? For example, an easy, obvious gimme is DC statehood. If you pass DC statehood, which is just an obvious thing that has to happen. I mean, we have these people living in fucking Washington, D.C. who don't have representation in Congress. It's just flagrantly anti-democratic, and that would guarantee them 2 more senators every single cycle.
And just like it guarantees the Republicans in Wyoming 2 senators, where nobody lives, by the way.
Exactly. Will they abolish the Electoral College, for example, so that they can have a shot at the presidency? Because the Republicans have an inherent advantage in the presidency. They can win the presidency with a minority of the votes, just like they can win the Senate with a minority of the votes. Do they do these reforms to change that calculus and allow themselves to get into power, to stay in power? Do they do anything to help people besides the $2,000 check? Do they expand labor rights? These are all things that would help them not just keep their hold in power for the near term, but for the long term. I mean, this is how Democrats dominated American politics in the 20th century. After the New Deal, when they passed the New Deal and helped people rewarded them with their votes forever. Democrats did not really lose the House until 1994. They controlled it for 60 years. Think about that. That was the legacy of the New Deal. So yeah, now they got no excuses. I mean, like you said,
that's crazy.
In a way, Biden.
That's crazy to even imagine now.
Consider that, right? Yeah. I mean, they won the House in the 1930s in the wake of the Great Depression, and then they passed the New Deal. And that generation of congressmen stayed in Congress for 60 years, basically. Very, very short blips were of Republican control. But the Democrats dominated the House and Senate for 60 years. It wasn't until the 1994 Gingrich Revolution in the Contract for America that the Republicans were able to win the House. And that was after the Democrats abandoned labor and then abandoned the legacy of the New Deal as all those politicians died off. Like all the politicians who did the New Deal in the 1930s were dead by 1980. And then a crop of new, young, hotshot Democrats like Bill Clinton and Gary Hart and Paul Tsongas and all these people.
Hart, my God. Yeah,
So,
and again, it's important to reiterate this point because brother Bernie sent the email out this morning. I don't read these fundraiser emails, but sometimes I'll read a Bernie email. And after last night, I wanted to read what Bernie sent to his supporters, and he's just like, "Look, man, you know, we raised a half. I personally sent with my campaign people, my campaign donors, my fucking supporters." We sent $1 million out to those two candidates. Small donation people. We got $500,000 out to each one of those candidates. We did our little part. I endorsed them. All of that. We did all of that. But what he had in bold print, he said, listen, they told us we need to be quiet about this. Stop asking for that. We should be happy with the 600. And by the way, I wonder who the they is that he's talking about there. It's hilarious, but he's like, they ran on doing something for people and they won. Period. That's a victory for our fucking political revolution, man. Run on helping people. They put that damn $2,000 on the ballot. And shit, man, the Democrats ain't got no business winning in Georgia. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the votes that flipped are, you know, a lot of these white suburbanites in Georgia, which it's surprising. Those people generally, they love their Republican brand. But at a certain point, it's like, look, man, they letting the lunatic do whatever the hell he wants. These people at least offering to help you. They could see the destruction that the pandemic has wrought. Like, it's not hard to see people are struggling. People need money. People are hurting. It's like their homies, they watching their savings account go down, watching people they know get laid off, having to lay off their own people. Like, it's so easy to see the struggle that's happening behind the pandemic. And even white suburbanites in the South could see, man, we got to do something for these people, man.
Listen, one of the legacies of the Trump era will be hopefully that the checks that he sent out, the $1,200 check with his big fat stupid signature on it, was a huge political win for him. It's probably why he did better in the election than it was predicted. That's a lesson politicians should learn. Simple policies that help people's lives, and then you run on them. The Obama era and Clinton era conventional wisdom for liberals and Democrats was like, we got to do policies, but we got to hide them from the people, and we got to make them like this weird tax credit instead of like a fat check, for example, like where people don't feel a tax credit in the same way that they feel just a big fat check in their bank account. They don't feel like a reduction in their tax liability every paycheck the same way you feel like if you just get a check in the mail and you can cash it in your account. It's the same thing as like, Social Security or Medicare, simple government programs, and then you run on them. So hopefully now that the difference is that there is a newer, more vibrant left in this country, right? Thanks in large part to the legacy of Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016, which radicalized millions of people. There's a new independent left media ecosystem that did not exist in 2008. There's shows like this one, there's magazines like Jacobin, all kinds of things that can not allow the liberals to just hide behind the excuses that they always try to use, So now that they're in power, we have to look squarely to them and say, okay, now it's your time to govern. You got no excuses. You control the government. Fucking use it.
And I would hope and I would pray in 2 years during the next Senate campaigns and of course House campaigns that people campaign on Mitch McConnell and them wanted to leave your ass for dead.
Yeah.
They wanted to, matter of fact, they wanted to send y'all 300. Okay? Yeah. And we came through and put 2 G's in your pocket. Then we did it again. All right? Like, that would be such a freaking winning message. So obviously, you know, but that goes without saying. We've said it a million times. Run on stuff that helps people directly, man. Make people remember who their friends are for real politically, man. And all this other shit, this conspiracy shit and all of that shit'll go right by the wayside. And don't get it twisted. There's a certain amount of people who are so far gone, but you don't need all of those people to get power. That's the beauty of it. You don't, you only need 50%. In fact, you only really need 50.2% if we being honest. You understand what I'm saying? So, man, I hope that would be the lesson that was learned here in Georgia. Congratulations to the Dems. I do have to say, my liberal friends are going to say we didn't suck enough Stacey Abrams' dick. I don't know what she did. I would love for people to reach out to me and send me sources of like what her actual
You mentioned that the Georgia has flipped in both the presidential election and now the Senate, largely because of the huge influx of voters from rich white suburbs to the Democratic Party. Like, I think that the narrative with Stacey Abrams was that she registered and organized millions of poor black people in the state, but actually, like, black turnout did not increase at the same rate that other demographics grew in the state. It's really driven by white suburbanite voters. I mean, that's just
Cobb
the reality.
County,
of it.
bro. Cobb County.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Hey, man. Yo, man. Oh, man. Anyway, yeah, congratulations to the Dems. Congratulations to another group of people that liberal Twitter is telling me did this is the WNBA players or something.
Yeah, what's
I don't know.
Because Kelly Loeffler owned a WNBA team.
She owned a WNBA team, and I guess they mass organized against her. And shouts to them, like, I love it. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't know that actually delivered the state. But whatever, if it did, I want them to have the credit. Shouts to everybody who had the credit in making this happen. Because I'm not gonna lie, I sure as hell didn't think it was gonna happen. Because I've been to Georgia a lot of times, and California, it ain't. Okay, so it's a big victory for the Dems. We get to, breathe a little sigh of relief momentarily. We move on, Nando, to this Vice report. That under the noses of the executives at Google, their workers were messing around and organizing. Now, to be clear, they haven't voted on a president, which is, basically the official way of telling your bosses that they have to recognize your union, yada, 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 yada. But they've come out the closet and said, we are going to organize Google. We're going to be the first people to organize a tech giant, which is massive news. This shit should be on TV all day, every single day. One, it should be on TV all day, every single day. Two, and I mentioned this at the top of the show, that no Democrats are supporting this besides Bernie Sanders and I think AOC, of course, but that goes without saying. But the Dems should be supporting this because you allegedly care about workers' rights, and these are exactly the freaking technocratic jobs that you guys circle jerk over all the time. Like, Nando tells that joke all the time where they thought the economy was going to move past factories. It's like, you're not going to work at a factory anymore. You're going to code, right? And these are the exact fucking jobs they were talking about. And what I love about this is that they got everybody from the freaking engineers to the little subcontractors. And it was like, you know what? We're all in this together. Literally the people that make this thing run on time, to the smallest little guy, we're all in this damn fight together. Like, I was deeply moved by reading this. Who knows if it'll freaking happen? Yeah. But just the idea that at Google, one of the world's biggest, richest companies ever, these workers, and these are the workers at the top of the scrap heap. When it comes to workers, people who work for a living, have a boss, can be fired at any time, yada, yada, yada. These employees at places like Google and Facebook and Apple are the most privileged workers in the entire fucking ecosystem, and they still organize against their damn bosses.
Yeah.
My God, this shit warms my heart, Nando. I don't even know what else to say, bro.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, we've talked about it a lot that, tech is kind of the new center of power in the global capitalist economy. If you look at the largest companies in the world, the 5 biggest companies in the world are tech firms. The biggest company in the world is, like, in terms of market cap, it's like Apple, and then Google, and then Facebook, and then Amazon,
right?
And yeah, they're the biggest. They're the biggest companies, and Microsoft. They're the biggest companies in the world, and yeah, I mean, it's the heart of the capitalist system right now. It's like the center power of it right now, and this unionization drive, like you said, is an incredibly potentially historic thing. I mean, I want to be clear about what it is so far. They have not won their union. It is what they're calling it now is a minority union. They have a few hundred workers signed up and they're paying dues to it, and they're affiliated with the real union called the CWA, the Communication Workers Alliance, which is part of the AFL-CIO. But it is not yet a majority union that negotiates contracts with the bosses. But it is a start. It is an absolute start. Like, it is the beachhead inside tech for the labor movement to start organizing and radicalizing these workers to improve their conditions, and therefore improve the conditions of everyone else that works in these sectors. Because it's been proven time and again that unions raise the boat for everyone.
Facts.
So yeah.
Period.
So, and you mentioned that they were very strategic in the way they thought about it. In that, so it's led by basically like tech engineers, but they're also looping in contractors, which over half of the workforce at Google is contractors, and they're also trying to loop in people like janitors and cafeteria workers, which are unionized in the Silicon Valley headquarters. The cafeteria workers are. So they want to build kind of that kind of solidarity across different parts of the company. Is it going to happen? There's going to be a vicious fight.
Oh man!
But the fact that they've already organized and they're already paying dues, that to me tells me that they're serious about this. And it's just, you got to start somewhere. And that's always been kind of a paralyzing thing for unionization drives, where it's like, unless they felt like they could get the majority of workers, they didn't try. And this one is like, they're trying a new model. And this is coming up on the heels at the same time that Amazon warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama, they're voting to unionize as well. And that would be a proper union that negotiates for a new contract with the bosses down in Alabama, and that could also spark a huge wildfire within the tech industry. So, listen, there is no social progress without labor power. There never has been, ever. Ever. Like, civil rights in this country in the 1960s happened not just because of civil rights activists like SNCC and Martin Luther King, but because the crusty, disgusting, problematic AFL-CIO supported it. And the AFL-CIO was very, very powerful back then, much more powerful than it is now. Right. It was the alliance between civil rights activists and organized labor that it was able to create the conditions of power that allowed for civil rights to happen. The New Deal happened because organized labor was militant and large and powerful. Every single welfare program in the history of mankind was created by a strong and powerful labor movement. Period. That's the period end of story. There is no social progress without labor power. No. And if not, what we get is a politics of Chuck Schumer wearing kente cloth and kneeling and doing nothing else. Or, Dick Durbin going on the Senate floor over the Christmas break. I don't know if you guys saw this video of Dick Durbin, who's a Democratic senator from Illinois, going onto the Senate floor talking about how he needs to vote for the new military bill because it renames the bases around the world that were named after Confederate soldiers. It's like, ask the fucking kid in Yemen who just got drone bombed
if it matters whether he cares that the base was named after
Robert E. Lee or Stonewall Jackson instead of fucking Ulysses S. Grant. Who gives a fuck?
It's crazy, and I think I think one of the beauties of the labor movement and organizing just in general, specifically against your bosses,
Yeah.
because it does the easy thing of identifying an enemy and that everybody can understand crystal clear.
And relate to, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we all know how and why this motherfucker is not giving me my just due, why I need more this, why I need more that, why they're manipulating our inability to be united. They're using that against us every single day. It's like classic divide and conquer. Like, it's rule number one of power. Like, divide these motherfuckers up. I always give the example of the mulatto class of people in Haiti.
Yeah.
Right before the slave revolt. The French, first of all, what people need to know about the revolution in Haiti is that the island was, by the time the revolution started, was 75% black. At least, meaning even if when you count the mulattoes, right, which are half European and half black, whatever. But before the revolution, what they came in and did, they said, shit, it's way too many of these motherfuckers in there. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to tell the mulatto class that they now get to be landowners too. We're gonna recognize their land deeds. We're gonna give them a leg up in this society so that we can maintain the power structure. It's what they always do. Like, they know that as little teeny tiny factions, you can't fuck with us. You can't fuck with the French army. Are you kidding me? You little band of bitch ass rebels by yourselves, you can't do shit. Now, the whole fucking island together against us, they know the terrain better than any freaking soldier that we can ship in from France. Nah, we can't beat that, right? And it's just what power always does. They figure out how to divide you, whether it be a little money, whether it be a little religion, whether it be a little class structure, whatever it is, they find it and they use it.
Or your skin color.
Or your skin color. It was just easy. It was like, all right, you guys are the light-skinned people in the society. Boom, done. And then we're going to empower you. And then those people like, shit, I like owning land. Fuck it, let's subjugate them. Right?
Yeah.
But again, like, this is what they always do. They divide us and then they conquer us. So it's just crazy to see this happen at a place like Google.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm actually reading a book about labor history now. I have it right here. It's called Labor's Untold Story. I highly recommend it. But on page 1, let me just read a quote from one Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, man.
Abraham Lincoln.
Please.
All right. The guy who freed the slaves. He wrote, quote, "All that harms labor is treason to America. No line can be drawn between these two. If any man tells you he loves America, yet he hates labor, he is a liar. If a man tells you he trusts America, yet fears labor, he is a fool. I am glad to see that a system of labor prevails under which laborers can strike when they want to. I like the system which lets a man quit when he wants to and wish it might prevail everywhere. The strongest bond of human sympathy outside of the family relation should be one uniting all working people of all nations, tongues, and kindreds." That is from Abraham motherfucking Lincoln. That's not one that you hear, that you read about in the textbooks or you see on the History Channel documentaries in this country when you hear about Lincoln.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it. And so, man, that's just the story. Check out that Vice story, y'all. It's crazy. It's potentially huge. We'll see what happens with it. I'm obviously rooting for it, right? And, full disclosure, like, I work for what's essentially a tech startup at The Athletic, right? Like, they come from that culture of, tech companies. And guess what? Like, everybody who's full-time at my job does have a 401k. They do provide us with insurance. They do, they're doing the right thing. There's no doubt about it, but it don't mean that they can't change their mind tomorrow about it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we're not protected against, we're at the whims of their...
Or if there's an ownership change.
Right, period.
That happens all the time.
It happens all the time. So, this shit is important, man. It's super important. Anyway, we move on to the only reason I wanted to do the show today, Nando, if I'm being real with you.
Fuck this bullshit coup. Let's talk about the real issues.
The real issues, which is Hilaria Baldwin, whose real name I presume is Hillary Baldwin, who is some type of yoga, lifestyle guru type of chick. She's
New
married
age chick.
New agey type of chick, exactly. She's married to Alec Baldwin, of course, famous actor, comedian, all of that shit. And throughout the years, she sort of branded herself as this new agey type of chick who's married to Alec Baldwin, but is also allegedly from Spain. For I don't know what the reason is or was, a couple of people on the internet just basically decided to out her and be like, yo, y'all know Hilaria Baldwin is doing an act, right? Like the bitch is from Boston. And so some people did some digging. It turns out that not only is she not from Spain, Nando, but I think her family on her mother's side predate the Revolutionary War. So not only is she like white, like she's original. The people who defined whiteness originally, they're like the founding members of whiteness in America. Anglo-Saxon Protestants from fucking England. That's who she's from. Okay? And for whatever reason, she thought it was a good idea to become publicly Hispanic. Nando, like, I read this and my jaw was on the ground, but at the same time, you know, because we do what we do for a living and we spend as much time as we do on the internet, I could kind of understand, like,
yeah,
it's so crazy. I can see both sides of it because I know conservatives are going to be like, you see, these fucking liberals done lost their mind. See, it's more advantageous to be Latin now. That's why they fucking doing it. You see, they fucking us up. I can see the conservatives going with that tack. And then I see the liberals being like, oh my God, she faked being a Spaniard. That is so offensive and blah, blah. And I'm like, realistically, like, who really like didn't benefit here? I guess I don't know. Like, were there some yoga instructors that were really from Spain that somebody didn't fuck with because they thought this lady? I don't know who actually got hurt here. Like I don't know. But I was talking to you before the show started. It's like I can understand because of the way we fetishize people of color now. And, you know, we fetishize the people who have tended to be at the bottoms of the totem pole. Like I've watched people fetishize black people. Right now we're fetishizing black women and it's just like a ridiculous. It's like, it's just weird. Like black women are now like magical Negroes now, which is, by the way, another form of dehumanization, but I digress. Yes. We fetishize, oh, she's Latin and blah, blah, blah. We fetishize it. We basically assign virtue to these identities. And so when you're just you are the purest white bread from fucking Massachusetts. Like, it's hard to, like, you're from New England. Your family predates the Revolutionary War. They might have been on the Mayflower. You descend from the Pilgrims, that you would think that there was some cultural currency in being from Spain. And never mind, Nando, which I want you to unpack right now, the fact that if whiteness is supposed to mean anything, people from Spain are white too. So it's like she was being a more cooler white. Yeah. She wasn't actually being like, she wasn't calling herself Cuban or Puerto Rican or Colombian, or even though there's like it's just crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, okay, so let me preface this by saying, like you said, I'm from Spain. My family's from Spain. I was born in Miami, but all my family's from Spain. They still live there. My cousins, my uncles, my grandparents. I go there all the time. I've lived there for a little bit. I speak Spanish, blah, 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 blah. And I can
By the
understand.
way, Nando is both Madrista and Catalan, y'all. Just so y'all know,
half and half.
He's playing both sides of the fence, y'all.
Both sides. My mom is from Barcelona. My dad's from Madrid. And so it turns out that this woman, I guess her parents had like a family, like a vacation home, I think in Mallorca, which is like an island, which is like an island off the coast of Spain. Very beautiful. Highly recommend going if you get a chance. But it's like a bougie ass place to have a vacation home. Oh, it's nice. You know, like the elite of Europe go there for their vacations and things like that. And I guess she spent a lot of time there when she was young. Or she'd probably go there in the summers and things like that. And I just want to start off by saying, like, I'm not like offended by any of this. I'm not mad. I think it's fucking hilarious. I think it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't think it's like violence what she did to my people or my culture, or some people were like, she doesn't even know how to do it because she's like cosplaying as a colonizer and shit like that. And it's like, guys, all of this shit is just, first of all, just not important and really funny, but also speaks to, like you said, a certain kind of liberal pathology with the language of anti-racism and the cultural currency that it creates in certain liberal spaces, of which Hilaria Baldwin is 100% in. She's a yoga teacher and married to Alec Baldwin. Okay. Like, he's fucking Trump on SNL. Okay. Like in liberal spaces, elite liberal spaces, meaning college campuses, meaning creative industries in New York and Los Angeles, meaning certain realms of the political world.
Media,
exactly. There is a certain currency to being non-white. This is not to say that the structures of society are still not, kind of not, stacked against
and by the
minorities.
way, don't get it twisted. Like, I'll give you an example of a place that like trades on coolness and culture and stuff like Nike. Like the top 5 decision makers at Nike are not black or brown.
No.
But best believe they understand that there's something happening amongst those communities that they want to make money off of. So there is a cultural currency to that.
Yes. And I'm sure that they're like, if they need to fill their next VP of marketing role or whatever, that they're going to make a very big effort to make sure that that person is not a white man, that person is some sort of, minority or something else. That there is, that there has been in the last several years, a certain cultural currency, the way you describe it, in liberal circles to being non-white, which has created this impetus for people to lie about their identity. I mean, it's not a coincidence that we've seen Rachel Dolezal. It's not a coincidence that we've seen Jessica Krug, aka Jess La Bombera in New York. People who are lying about being non-white. It's not that they want to like lower their own station. It's because they feel that they would have a way to advance their own station if they did that.
Specifically in liberal circles, right?
Yes.
Like that lady.
Yes, if this woman was from Alabama, she would not fake to be minority.
They do the opposite. She would be like, no, I'm actually, my grandfather served in the Civil War for the Confederacy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Well, not my grandfather, but you know what the hell I mean. They be doing something different. But in liberal circles, this, Rachel Dolezal worked at the NAACP. Right. Yeah. There is a certain level of like, my advancement. And again, I do think white people should work at the NAACP. I actually wouldn't even be opposed to a white person who actually understands the work, ascending to positions of influence.
Hey man, I'm on the Black Opinion Matters network.
Right. My God, Nando's on it. Like it's just the idea that you would lie about it. That's where it becomes weird. Like if you really about and then there's this double-edged sword too, Nando, about this weird sort of commodification, fetishization of non-white culture. Is like there's this thing where it's like if somebody's too whatever, like say a Sean King, where people are just like, no, guys, he's just a white person who's really into black shit. You know what I'm saying? And nobody wants that either.
Right. Well, I mean, okay, like let's put up a thought experiment on Hilaria Baldwin. Say her parents were from Boston, and they came over on the Mayflower, and say she was born in Boston, but say she spent the ages of 2 to 14 living and going to school in Spain, and spending her summers in Maine or some shit. But she spoke Spanish. All her friends were Spanish. She grew up in Spain. She has a thick Spanish accent when she speaks. Like there is a certain element of like what degree of time spent in that country growing up as part of that culture would she be able to then say like, oh yeah, I'm Spanish. You know what I mean? Like if say she spent like the ages of 2 to 18 living in Spain. She grew up there her whole life as a child. And like, what is she supposed to say then? you know, I kind of want to grant that there is a little bit of nuance to that. It doesn't seem like this is the case with her. It looks like she was doing the opposite. She grew up in Boston, spent her summers in Spain, and then somehow as an adult is claiming she doesn't know American slang and doesn't know how to say the word cucumber.
Right. Like she went on TV and acted like what's that? How do you say that?
Yeah. But like what would be the appropriate kind of amount of time spent there? And I get, like, if this was like a racial thing, it would be very different. You know, like, I mean, even if you grew up in Haiti and you were white, you know, like, it would be very weird to say, like, I'm a black Haitian. You know, maybe you would say I'm Haitian.
No, the crazy shit is, I just don't understand when people from Spain stop being white. It's like this weird. It's like this weird thing that's happening. This is why the topic of race will forever fascinate me, but also, like, it's so stupid because we're in the process of turning Cuban people white. We're literally doing it right before my very eyes, but somehow this person calling herself somebody from Spain is making herself non-white, when really the only people that Cuban people get to be white is because they have Spanish origin. I'm like, I'm upside down here with this shit.
Yeah, well, I guess that the lesson is that, like, again, race is a social construct. It's not like it is not something that you can measure. It's not like the midichlorians in Star Wars, you know? There is not, like, you can't get someone's blood and put it in a lab and see the racial composition, the exact, like, racial composition of said person. It's at the end of the day a social construct, in which case there will be often these very changing social relations to it, and you know, that's always been kind of the reality of it. But there's a certain element of the sort of liberal discourse which has become very weirdly right wing, or how it used to be seen. Like, it used to be that right wing people used to, like, look at someone's, like, actual skin tone and blood composition to see, like, oh wait, where do you fall in the apartheid regime in South Africa? You know, like, what precise level of whiteness or blackness do you have, depending on what benefits you get? You know, are you pure enough white to not be, you know, to survive Nazi Germany, or do you have some problematic elements within it? Like, at the end of the day, like, that discourse is it's a problem. Like, we have to, liberals cannot fall down that path, you know, of essentializing race rather than seeing it as what it is, which is a social construct.
Bruh, so that lady from the Bronx, or wherever she was,
Jess La Bombera.
Jess La Bombera. That's crazy.
So good.
So the dude that was her close friend and let her write in some publications and all of this, he wrote like a basically, I hate this style of fucking writing that's become so prevalent in our side of the media, which is this, like, navel gazy, like, I befriended this girl and I fucked up and I let a bunch of people down. And it's like this, you know, it's like this, he's like vomiting his emotions out onto the page, and this wrenched me so much in my soul, and this, and I'm gonna try to find this shit for you to read it. And Nando, the way this guy, the language that this guy is using, I'm like, what planet are we on? He's like, at one point he talks about how he was in his own state of feeling weird about how prevalent some lighter skinned people were in the struggle for black people. And I'm just like, yo, how can a black person come out and say they don't want a light skinned black person doing things because they're light skinned?
It's crazy.
It's so weird. It's so weird. And I don't know how we got wrapped up in all of this. Like, honestly, the Rachel Dolezal shit is like, yo, lady, you're kind of crazy. You need to go to therapy. Get over this. You can even wear your little fucking fake afro or whatever, but go get therapy. Go seek help. Make sure you're right with yourself, and then maybe you can help out some other people. Same with this. You know, Alec Baldwin's wife, she's going to be fine. She's going to stay rich. The public ridicule is enough. Like, the idea that she, like, hurt some people or
she didn't hurt anybody.
She didn't hurt anybody. She made a fool of herself.
She gave us a great gift in that we all had a good laugh. We all had a good laugh at her expense, and now I kind of feel bad. But, yeah.
It's like, I just wish that we could just move on from these things without 70,000 think pieces about Hilaria Baldwin faking to be from Mallorca, bruh.
Yeah. Like, it doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. Like, it's not important. She didn't do anything like violent, or she didn't hurt anybody. If anyone's like really offended by this, like, they're either lying or I'm sorry, but they're being way too sensitive. Like,
she's a clown. And I'm sorry, liberals, you did this.
Yeah.
You did this with your memes, with your Yas Queen, with a bunch of white chicks screaming Yas Queen on my internet, knowing damn well they don't talk like that in Iowa.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, bro. Like, you're from Nebraska. You moved to New York 4 years ago. Stop saying Yas Queen. You don't talk to your mammy and pappy like that. That's what I'm sorry. Like, it's all of that shit. All of that shit contributes to this, man. All of it. But anyway, I just was so fascinated by it. And especially because you, Nando, are somebody who's from Spain, right? So it's just like, I don't fucking know. Yeah, obviously, Nando's a lot fucking cooler than your average bro from South Boston. Obviously. But that doesn't mean those same bros are incapable of not becoming cooler themselves by being themselves. Just reading a book or two, man, and getting out of their own little little narrow-minded spaces. They could become cool too, but like, it's just weird. It's just fucking weird. I just felt like that whole thing, because I read up on it. The chick that did the whole dissertation on her Instagram story, I'm drawing a blank on your name right now. Fuck, I forget her name, but sorry,
Hilaria
guys.
Baldwin? Yeah, I saw that one.
She did a whole, it's still
it was
on her
like way
Instagram
too
story.
much. I was like, man, chill out.
She went in and was giving commentary about, and it's whatever. She's an internet personality, whatever. But I was just like, wow, this is just, woo, Lord, liberals, man, y'all be killing me, man. I swear to God. Anyway, that's our show for today. I want to thank everybody, man, for hanging in there with us. Of course, the New Year's is going to bring bigger and better things for Woke Bros and the whole Black Opinions Matter feed, man. Bigger, better things ahead, man. We got so many dope things in store for you guys. Of course, become a Patreon of Count the Dings at patreon.com/Count the Dings if you can. We appreciate everything that your contributions will help us put on this great content for you guys week after week. Make sure you subscribe to Cinephobe, the Count the Dings feed. Make sure you're listening to the Dad Pod. Make sure you're doing all of that stuff. Pack your knives, all of it. Make sure you're checking out all of that stuff every week. Of course, Nando, let's pot it out. Jacobin Weekends with Nando. Baby. And my sister, my favorite leftist pundit.
Yes, come on,
Anna
don't insult
Kasparian.
her.
Yes, I would never. Well, she used to be a liberal. Anna, because she's a former.
She's reformed.
Whatever. She's reformed, but it is what it is. Anyway, Jacobin Weekends, man, on the Jacobin's YouTube channel. Check out Nando and Anna. Just be on the lookout for everything that we're doing. For Nando, I'm Wos. We're out of here. Peace.
Love you guys.